Real Health Transformations is a podcast for the woman I once was and the woman I'm still becoming. It's for the new mom trusting her instincts, the seasoned mom questioning the science, and the party girl ready to trade Sunday scaries for sourdough starters. It's for the woman who's wrestled with weight, trauma, chronic illness, and the struggle to find balance in motherhood, career, and life. I'm your host, Holly Jean Mullen, a functional wellness practitioner and holistic real estate specialist. You are the expert on your body, and this show is here to help you cut through the BS, connect the dots between your health and your home, and find simple strategies that actually work for you. We'll have real conversations that matter, challenge the status quo, and keep it simple. If you're craving a calmer home, a clearer mind, or a healthier body, you're in the right place for real solutions, real encouragement, and real transformation. Hello. Welcome back to the show, Real Health Transformations Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Jean, and today we are talking hormones. Hormones are by far probably the thing I get asked about the most. It's a huge topic. So rather than doing a typical like hormones 101 type of episode, which is what I originally was thinking I was going to do going into this episode, I am not going to do that. I want to instead address two main things today. First, I want to tackle some of the hormone questions I see a lot in group chats, in my inbox, from my clients. Second, I want to explain why these questions and most hormone-related questions are nearly impossible to answer without knowing more about your individual symptoms, your lifestyle, health history, and I will preach this till the cows come home. If you truly need help with your hormones, please stop asking internet strangers. They do not know you. They don't know your body. They don't know your specific health challenges. And listen, I get it. I totally get this. I do. I understand feeling frustrated and desperate for answers and just hoping for like some magic bullet or just like some magic piece of advice that someone's going to give you that's going to fix everything. But I've worked with dozens of women one-on-one and hundreds more through group programs, and never, not once, have I heard anyone say, my hormone issues were solved when Jenny Jones, 49, from Tuscaloosa responded to my Facebook question about my irregular periods. It just doesn't work like that. I wish it did. It doesn't. But let me paint a picture for you. So imagine someone feeling constantly fatigued, they're gaining weight, experiencing mood swings, and instead of consulting their qualified practitioner or provider, someone who could assess the situation properly, they start diving into internet forums. They're searching and hoping and looking for answers. This is a prime example of productive procrastination. They're busy doing something. They're reading the articles, they're joining the Facebook groups, they're asking a bunch of people for advice, even if they're random internet strangers. But what they're really doing is avoiding the uncomfortable, maybe inconvenient step, the necessary step of going and seeking like help from someone who could actually really help you. Now, I get there might be a lot of reasons why we're going to the groups first, but in these forum type of settings, they're likely to stumble upon a thread where maybe someone suggests a supplement that worked wonders for them or their cousin's best friend. So this person will spend time and money on that supplement only to see little to no results. Why? Because that worked for Tina's twin sister, Tammy. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's relevant to this person's situation. Hormones are complex, and their hormone balance, or imbalance can be affected by so many factors. We're talking like stress, diet, sleep, gut health, you name it. Without understanding your specific context, any advice from the internet is just a shot in the dark. So like, here's the thing. Hormone imbalance is rarely a root cause. And I see it all the time. I need to fix my hormones. I need to fix my hormones. But what's causing your hormones to need fixing? Hormones are a symptom of something deeper, whether it's chronic stress, poor diet, inflammation, or other underlying imbalances in the body. And that's why simply just like trying to fix your hormones or asking generic questions about your hormones without addressing the root causes, it's really not going to get you very far. It's just putting a bunch of band-aids on things. We need to look deeper and figure out what's driving the imbalance in the first place. So if you want to explore new rabbit holes or try random products and protocols that helped some person with vaguely similar symptoms, by all means, go for it. But I'm just saying, like, I've seen too many people spin their wheels, waste their time, waste their money, and just get more frustrated. These solutions aren't tailored for you. And if you really want to fix the problem and understand your unique body, that means working with someone who can see the full picture and not just pieces of it. Now, I fully understand that sometimes finding a good doctor who actually listens or who understands hormone imbalances can feel like an uphill battle. That can be a challenge in of itself. I am not denying that, and that might be why you're going to the internet in the first place. Or maybe you've been to multiple doctors, or you've left appointments with no clear answers, or you leave feeling even worse or felt dismissed. And I also know that sometimes there's a financial burden of getting labs done or going to see a functional medicine practitioner, and it can all be so overwhelming. I do understand this, and I'm not trying to dismiss that. It is frustrating, and if you feel like you're stuck in limbo and just wanting to get better but unsure where to turn next, like, just know that I'm not trying to make light of that situation either. It is just a problem all around. And I think that if this is you, like, just know that I have been in your shoes too, and I'm not throwing shade. I do have advice and resources. So stick around through this episode. I am going to be answering some questions. I am going to share some resources at the end of this episode too. And my hope is by the end of this episode, you have some direction, or you feel like I've answered some questions for you. But also, if you feel like you need more personalized help, like, please don't hesitate to reach out. I work with clients locally and virtually. I also have a network of practitioners that I can highly recommend. But the bottom line is, like, I would like to help you get the answers you're looking for so that you don't have to ask strangers on the internet. So that said, let's get to these questions. This is one I see in some form or another almost daily, or I hear from people, and it's, how can I balance my hormones? How can I fix my hormones? But I will specifically pick this one. How can I balance my hormones without using bioidentical hormones? And I think bioidentical hormones and like HRT, that will be another topic for another day, because that needs to be talked about too. But for this question, how can I balance my hormones without using bioidentical hormones? Whenever I get this question, first, I have so many more questions. When someone says they want to balance their hormones, I immediately want to know, well, one, what are you experiencing to believe your hormones are imbalanced? Or what data are you basing this off of if you've been told your hormones are out of balance? And then from there, I'll have even more questions, because I always just have so many questions. But then I can get pointed in a direction on where to start my custom questioning, I guess. More direction for my next set of questioning. Hormonal imbalances can show up in a lot of different ways. So depending on which hormones are off, it depends on what we need to know. So this person didn't specifically say what she was experiencing other than vague perimenopause symptoms. So this question did actually come from a person. She just said she was having perimenopause symptoms and she wants to know how to balance her hormones without bioidentical hormones. So for context, if you're just listening, some common symptoms that could fall under that umbrella of hormone imbalance, that could be anything from irregular periods, heavy periods, unexplained weight gain or difficulty losing weight, fatigue, especially after like getting a full night of sleep, if you're still fatigued, mood swings, irritability, anxiety, low libido, difficulty sleeping, and that could be difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, like waking up in the night and then difficulty falling back asleep there, digestive issues, specifically bloating and constipation, skin issues, and that could be from acne, eczema, any of these, some of these, a combo of these, a sporadic happening of these. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms consistently, it's worth exploring whether your hormones could be playing a role. So after that, I am going to ask, what's your diet like? And if you're like 99.9% of my clients, totally made up statistic there, but I will say most people, when I ask them, what's your diet like? They say, oh, I eat pretty good, mostly clean, mostly healthy foods. I'm not perfect. I'm like a 80-20 rule kind of gal. I swear, I think we go to some kind of girl school and that's what we get taught. That's how we all eat. If we get asked that question, that's the answer. When I ask someone to keep a food journal for 5 to 7 days, that's not what I see. That's the answer. That's not what shows up. But diet plays such a critical role in our hormone health because the foods you eat are going to directly impact your blood sugar, your digestion, your nutrient intake, and those are all tied to our hormone production. So if you're eating too much sugar or too much processed food, that's going to cause blood sugar spikes, which is going to create insulin resistance, which leads to an imbalance in reproductive hormones like your estrogen and your progesterone. There you go. You've got hormonal imbalance. Equally important is just, are you eating enough? I see so many people just under eating. That's a major issue for hormone imbalancing. So when you say, when you're not consistently eating, when you're not consistently eating enough, it's going to trigger a stress response in the body, which is going to increase your cortisol levels and disrupt the production of your hormones in your thyroid. It's going to disrupt those sex hormones. And this is going to lead to missed or irregular periods and low energy and weight gain. On the flip side of this, if you're eating a diet that's rich in whole foods and healthy fats and fibers and proteins, that's going to help balance your hormones. It's going to stabilize your blood sugar and support your healthy gut and provide those necessary building blocks for hormone production. You have to have proper nourishment, a proper diet. That's going to be at the very core of your hormone balance. So if you're looking at balancing your hormones, we have to look at your diet. So don't forget eating enough, eating the right nutrients. That's just as important as what you're choosing to eat. And then the next component here is stress. Like after I ask you about what you're eating, I want to know what kind of stress you're under. And that can be a lot of different kind of questions to assess your stress levels, because stress can be a big culprit to hormone disruption, but it isn't always about the demands of like kids and family and bills and work. Stress can also mean the things that we're not always immediately thinking about, those things that don't always come to top of mind right away, because it could be those internal factors. It could be food allergies or inflammation or infections or pathogens in the bodies, things that your body is fighting against. It could be external environmental stressors like your Wi-Fi, chemicals, toxins we're exposed to. Those can trigger a stress response in your body. And all of these things, whether it's internal or external, is going to have an impact on your cortisol, which is going to then disrupt the balance of hormones in your body, especially reproductive hormones. So when you're under chronic stress, your body's going to release more cortisol, and that's our stress hormone. That's going to throw off the balance of our other hormones. I've already mentioned estrogen and progesterone, but also our thyroid. I can't tell you how many women I see that have thyroid issues. It never starts in the thyroid. Cortisol is going to deplete your body's resources. It's going to make it harder for you to create and regulate these other hormones. So that's going to lead to these hormonal imbalance things that you're trying to fix, like the irregular periods or PMS or fatigue and the mood swings. So stress management's important, but it's not the only piece of the puzzle either. So that's why when someone says, how can I balance my hormones? That's really a loaded question there. And we really need to figure out, well, why are they out of balance in the first place? And it's never really just a simple answer. This next question here says, I did a Dutch test. That's a urine test, by the way. I did a Dutch test and found out that my estrogens were really high. Everything else, my cortisol, my progesterone, my testosterone, are all normal. My doctor put me on a product called DIM, and after 3 months, my estrogens were back in normal range. I'm wondering what would cause my estrogens only to be high. Okay, this is a good question. So let's dive into this. First off, I'm glad you did a Dutch test because it really gives a great snapshot into what's going on hormonally. A Dutch test honestly is only as good as the practitioner who is able to give the results, because anyone can run a Dutch test, but someone has to be able to explain those results to you. So you mentioned your estrogens were high and everything else, cortisol, progesterone, testosterone, those were all normal. And it's okay, great that your doctor put you on DIM and that helped get your estrogens back into the normal range. But let's address the real question here. What would cause only your estrogens to be high in the first place? So before I go into that, I'll just say real quick, and this is not like a dig at your practitioner because I don't know like what went down there. I don't know what was all explained to you, but I'm just making this note here, comment to people listening. It is going to be a red flag when a practitioner doesn't explain the why behind the labs. And that's why I made that comment of, yeah, a Dutch test is great, but a lot of people can run a Dutch test, but it doesn't necessarily mean they are trained in knowing how to interpret or explain the results of a Dutch test. So I don't know if that is why this person is asking that question, if it wasn't explained to them properly, but this is something that I am seeing become more of a problem and a bigger problem where people are jumping on this bandwagon of like functional medicine. I'm like, oh yeah, I could run these labs, but they're really not properly trained in how to interpret the data and then how to explain that to their clients or to their patients. So I just wanted to make that a little note, that something that I see. So I don't know if that is what happened in this situation, but I'm just saying it is something that I see, and it makes me wonder if we are really being helpful, if we're calling ourselves functional practitioners or functional doctors when we're just saying, oh, here, I see that this just says your estrogens are high, here, take this supplement. Like, I feel like that's just taking the functional name and slapping the Western medicine model on it. by like giving a supplement instead of a prescription. You know, it's not enough to just throw a supplement like DIM at you and call it a day. Like, we've got to understand the context of what's happening in the body. So back to the point here. So we're missing some context here because I don't know the original symptoms or what brought this person in to get the Dutch test in the first place. And it is possible that this person just ordered a Dutch test online. I know there are several practitioners where you can just order labs on their website, and unless you book a consultation, like, you don't know what those results are. So I don't know what these exact situations are, but estrogen dominance is super common, and common not because it's normal, it's common just because of how we live. It's not always about having too much estrogen floating around, and a lot of times it's about the balance between estrogen and progesterone. And when progesterone is low, and that happens a lot due to stress or aging, processed foods, toxins, you get this situation where estrogens can start running wild, and it can cause all sorts of symptoms like fatigue and weight gain and heavy periods and mood swings and migraines and breast tenderness, and even things like fibroids and ovarian cysts. And I always picture estrogen as this playground bully when it's unchecked by progesterone. But the thing is here is that it's not always about having too much estrogen. Sometimes it's that your body isn't clearing it out properly, because estrogen is a builder hormone. And that means that if it's not detoxed and eliminated efficiently, it just piles up. And that's where liver health and digestion come into play, because estrogen goes through this detox process in the liver. There are 3 phases to this metabolism, and it's important that all 3 phases are working properly. Now, DIM helps here because it supports one of these detox phases, but the whole system needs to be functioning for estrogen to be processed and excreted properly. So our modern lifestyle doesn't make this easy, because we've got environmental estrogens. These are known as xenoestrogens, things like plastics, pesticides, our cosmetics that can mimic estrogen in our body. Plus there's alcohol and stress and processed foods, and just throws everything out of whack. So even just a glass of wine a night can mess up with how your body processes estrogen. So we throw in the stress, like that's a huge one. Chronic stress can drop our progesterone levels. And even if your estrogen levels are normal, without enough progesterone, you can end up with estrogen dominance anyways. Some other things that can cause estrogens to be high is if you are taking any hormone replacement therapy or birth control, if you have those things that contain synthetic estrogens, that could increase your estrogen levels. So if this person is on birth control, some forms of birth control are high in estrogen, and that can create an imbalance over time. Birth control pills and other contraceptives, they can kind of vary in the amount of estrogen they contain, but generally it's that combination birth control pills, the ones that contain estrogen and progestin, those are the ones that have higher estrogen levels. And some combination pills, those are considered high estrogen if they contain 50 micrograms or more of ethinyl estradiol. But most of the modern pills, they are low dose now. They're containing 20 to 35 micrograms. But the older formulations and certain brands, those might still have higher amounts. But also the birth control patches and those birth control rings, those are combos, and those don't tend to be high. Those tend to be a little bit more balanced and a little more like even on how they distribute. So anyway, great question. So even if I don't have all this person's particulars, estrogen dominance is a term that is thrown around a lot. And while like symptoms can be really telling, all of the hormones are going to benefit from a good diet that's going to balance your insulin. We've got to put some love on your liver because we want those detox pathways to make sure we're clearing those excess hormones. We need to manage our stress. Just sometimes we do need to dig a little bit deeper, and labs like a Dutch test can show us what's going on within the pathways. I feel like we just didn't have like enough information here to really see what was going on, but it's more than just taking a hormone test and seeing your estrogen is high or low. Like, we need to understand how our body is metabolizing and clearing those hormones to really figure out the best approach. So it's not just a hormone issue, it is a whole body issue, and fixing it's also going to mean looking at your environment, looking at your stress levels, and looking at your diet and your gut health if we're really going to get things back in balance. Because something like DIM, the reason that the estrogen went back into normal range is because she was taking the DIM. Like, I bet you since she stopped taking the DIM, those estrogen numbers are going to climb back up because we didn't fix the reason why they're high in the first place, right? And so she stops taking the DIM that was like supporting her clearing that without fixing the reason why they were high. Those are going to creep back up. So if you were listening, if that was your question, I would recommend either reaching out to your practitioner and finding out more details of what is going on there. Well, I would recommend that. But if you weren't working with someone, find someone who can properly read that test and walk you through it and explain what's going on and find out what like further support you need. All right, this next question is, I am looking for a practitioner to go to regarding hormones and cortisol issues. Is this something that you do? Yes, hormone and cortisol issues are definitely something that I work with. And I'm not a lab dominant practitioner. I see it all the time, people reaching out, like calling for consultations, like, do you run labs? I'm looking for a functional practitioner to run labs. I really want labs. My question is always like, what are you needing labs for? Like, what are your issues? Because so many people just want labs for the sake of having labs. I find that most of my clients are able to achieve their goals through lifestyle changes, nutritional therapy, the tools that I use, without the need for extensive lab testing. By all means, if someone just wants labs, like, yeah, we can do labs, especially like if you just want to, like, if you like just having the data, if you like seeing the benchmarks. But honestly, not everyone just wants to throw a bunch of money at labs. Functional labs can get really expensive. But that said, I'm able to advise on labs. I can do suggested lab panels. If we feel like labs are necessary for your case, then I can order some specialized functional lab tests like hormone panels, cortisol assessments, depending on what we're trying to uncover. For my local clients, I utilize like in-person biofeedback and energetic testing, which gives us real-time data on how your body systems, like your thyroid or your adrenals, are functioning. And this allows us to tailor our approach based on your like immediate right now needs. On next week's episode, I will be diving into the world of functional lab testing, because it's a conversation that needs to be had. Because when it's appropriate, we need to talk about like when it is appropriate, how you interpret the results, and answering some of the most common questions that I get about labs. So if you're curious about how labs can help you get to the root of your health concerns, or if like you're at that point where, yes, I need labs, then make sure you turn in next week, because that's what we're going to talk about. All right, this next question. Holly, I need help. That's how it starts. I'm about to be 40, under a lot of stress, and I think in perimenopause. I've gained a lot of weight recently, about 30 pounds in 2 months. I've been to the doctor. Everything is normal. Blood work is great. Thyroid, kidneys, A1C, vitamin D. What hormone test should I do? And how do I do a cortisol detox? Is there anything natural I can do? Okay, this is a lot of questions. This is a lot wrapped into one. And wow, girlfriend, okay, you're going through a lot, but you're not alone. Many women experience dramatic changes during perimenopause, especially when under stress. And I know it's frustrating when doctors tell you everything looks normal. I've heard that there's nothing more frustrating. I've worked with so many women who have felt completely stuck after their doctors told them everything was normal. I have been that woman. One of my clients just recently had almost the exact same situation you're describing, where she has rapid weight gain, stress, and feeling lost in this perimenopausal shuffle. But once we dug into her cortisol levels and stress management, like she saw a pretty major turnaround in a pretty short amount of time. So let's just break this down step by step. So why everything is normal doesn't mean you're fine. Blood work can often come back normal, but that doesn't mean there's nothing happening beneath the surface. And conventional tests, as we know, that typically test thyroid function, basic metabolic panels, and maybe a few key hormones, but they don't always paint a full picture of how your hormones are interacting and how stress is affecting your body. But since you've already had basic tests done in your thyroid, your kidneys, A1C, vitamin D, those levels are fine. Some more specific hormone tests I'd recommend are testing your cortisol. You can get a 4-point cortisol test like the Dutch test. That's going to measure your cortisol levels throughout the day to see how your body's handling stress. And one test isn't going to give you that whole picture since cortisol levels fluctuate. You can get your estradiol, progesterone, testosterone tested. Those are your primary sex hormones, and you might be experiencing an imbalance here, particularly if you're going through perimenopause. You can test your DHEA. This hormone is going to work alongside cortisol, and it can be helpful to see how your adrenals are functioning. You can add in insulin. So even if your A1C is normaling, testing your insulin levels might help reveal if your body's becoming resistant there. A thyroid panel, it's good to just double check your thyroid panel and see if they tested your free T3, T4, reverse T3, and your thyroid antibodies, because the standard thyroid tests often are going to miss those. You can do an OAT test, an organic acids test. This is another great testing option, especially when standard labs come back normal, because there's still those unexplained symptoms like the rapid weight gain, and the OAT can provide a deeper look at any potential environmental factors that might be affecting your body's metabolism and overall health. And that test is going to look at markers related to your gut health and detoxification and your nutritional deficiencies and mitochondrial function. Specifically, it can check for yeast and molds or bacterial overgrowth. And it's just a great overall test if your stress levels are high and you've ruled out typical things like your thyroid, your insulin, your blood sugar. The OAT could uncover hidden imbalances that are contributing to the weight gain that aren't those things. It can be especially useful when it is environmental factors like toxins or gut health, because those things aren't always easily picked up by conventional labs. Some other natural ways that you can support your hormones: the fact that you've gained 30 pounds in just 2 months, that's a big clue that your body is responding to stress in a significant way. So focusing on stress reduction and lifestyle changes, that's going to be key here. We got to double check your diet and what's going on there, cutting back on processed foods, sugar, alcohol, even just a little bit. If you're doing 80-20 rule on this, that needs to just stop, because that 20%, if you're already completely stressed, that's going to just be magnified here. So what should be a little bit of balance, a little bit of a glass of wine here, some birthday cake there, your body's just holding on to everything right now. So try to just focus on more whole foods, lean proteins, vegetables, healthy fats, foods like cruciferous veggies, the broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. That's going to help detox the excess estrogen. Exercise right now. If you are an exerciser or not, we'll just start with, let me back up. Keep it light. It's so important right now to minimize stress. So exercise is a stress. Yes, exercise is a good thing, but exercise is a stress on the body. So if you are someone who likes to work out hard, now is not the time for that. Now is not the time to be doing your HIIT exercises. That is going to backfire, especially if you are exhausted or tired and you're still forcing yourself to hit the gym or to work out. Stop. Like, your body needs to just rest right now. Go for a walk, do some light stretching. If you like yoga, prioritizing movement that makes you feel relaxed and calm and at peace, that is your wheelhouse right now. Like, still move your body, but you're doing it in a way that promotes calm. That is giving you that adrenaline rush. You can add in some adaptogens if you want, herbs like ashwagandha, holy basil. Those can help support your adrenals. Okay, you asked about how to detox cortisol, and that's an interesting question because technically it's not about detoxing cortisol, but it's about regulating your cortisol levels. So testing is going to be especially important here when it comes to cortisol, because you don't want to assume your levels are high and start taking supplements to lower your cortisol without knowing for sure, because cortisol can either be too high or too low, and the symptoms can often overlap. So it can be a little bit tricky just by how you're feeling, because everybody knows, stress, cortisol, stress, cortisol, stress, cortisol. But initially, your body pumps out cortisol to handle the stress. But if you keep up with the stress, when that stress becomes chronic and your adrenals get overworked, eventually they start to struggle. And instead of producing too much cortisol, they can't keep up and your cortisol levels start to drop. And this is going to leave you feeling completely drained. You're going to have more symptoms like fatigue and brain fog and low blood pressure. And this is why it's so important to test your cortisol before jumping directly into supplements. Either way, it is not a bad idea to focus on adrenal support and, again, stress reduction, because the goal is to rebuild and nourish your body so that you can handle stress better. We don't want to just keep pushing our body harder. So you want to be prioritizing sleep. Make sure you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Cortisol is regulated during rest. So going to bed and waking up at consistent times, that is going to go a long way. Other supplements, our body burns through our nutrients really quickly when we are stressed. So you can look at like doing adrenal cocktails and stuff, things with magnesium and vitamin C. Just like I have been in your shoes, and it was not long ago. It was not long ago at all. And if you've been following me, you know this. I was stressed. I was gaining weight. I was searching for something to blame. So this is something else to think about, because I know I kept hoping that a test result was going to show up with a clear reason as to why I kept gaining weight. I was looking for something external that I could point to, but honestly, I had to get real with myself because I wasn't managing my stress. I wasn't nourishing my body properly, and I wasn't taking care of myself the way I knew I should. And once I stopped looking for a test and looking for a diagnosis to take the blame, and I put on my big girl pants and I took responsibility for my health, that is when everything changed. That is when everything shifted, because I was able to shift my mindset, and I made self-care a priority, and I lost 30 pounds quickly. in less than 6 months. And that was without some magic fix. It came from me stop looking for a test or a diagnosis or something. I had to stop looking for what's wrong with me. And I had to stop saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I keep gaining weight. I don't know what's going on with my hormones. Those were the things I kept saying. Like, I kept saying it in my mind. I kept saying it with my words. And I was playing a victim. I wasn't taking responsibility. And it came from me having to change that story. It's like, that's enough of this. I need to stop saying I don't know and actually acknowledge the fact that I'm the problem here. I don't need a test. The test isn't the problem. My hormones aren't the problem. My thyroid is not the problem. The problem was I wasn't taking care of myself. Now, I'm not suggesting that you, this person who asked this question, or you, someone listening who might be in the same boat, I'm not saying that you are doing this. I'm not suggesting that you stop testing or stop searching for answers, because I will say those are important and they do have a time and a place. And I'm also not saying I didn't also have some measurable physiological health issues, because I certainly did and do still have some stuff at play. But sometimes it's also worth checking in with yourself. Are you truly being honest with how you are caring for your body? Or is there a part of you looking to place blame somewhere else? Is there a part of you not wanting to take responsibility for where you are not showing up for yourself? While lab tests and external resources can be helpful, the real lasting change, that has to come from within. So I said I'd have some advice and resources for those of you who either couldn't find a practitioner and or afford labs. Here's the thing: while you might not have access to a perfect doctor or unlimited funds for testing, there are still actionable steps that you can take for your health that do not involve diving into rabbit hole internet forums. You can take control of so many things. Like, you do have the power to do things. And here are some things that you can take control of right now. And that, number one, is starting with the basics. Like, you don't always need a test to tell you if your lifestyle is contributing to hormonal imbalances. You can focus on improving your sleep and managing stress and cleaning up your diet and getting gentle exercise. Those are all things that can have a major impact on balancing your hormones naturally. These are foundational habits. They are free. They play a huge role in your overall hormonal health. In fact, I will straight up tell you, unless you want to pay money for someone to tell you your hormones are off when clearly you already know your hormones are off, you're just wasting your money if you're jumping straight into doctor's appointments and lab tests. If your diet is a dumpster fire and you don't sleep and you have zero control over your stress management. Just my opinion. But if you have the resources and you want confirmation and guidance on these things, by all means, yes, spend away. But if you are being frugal, you can start here with the basics. Your diet, we want whole food. We want food that comes from nature, nutrient-dense food. We're going to try cutting back on sugar, processed foods, alcohol. These are all things that are going to disrupt hormones. You have to have healthy fats in your diet to be able to make hormones. So make sure you're having some healthy fats. Get in some veggies. Stress management, stress. I know we live in a culture of being busy and always doing, and it's somehow, some way, like a badge of honor to be doing everything. But I'm really liking this new trend that's starting to emerge of embracing this slow culture, like the slower pace. You can get into that flow, setting boundaries, saying no, anything you can do to just slow down, have some joy in your day-to-day, laughter. And again, I know I already hit on the exercise and movement, but if you are already stressed and having a bunch of hormonal imbalance, doing super intense workouts might not be the best thing for you right now. Especially if you're not recovering well. Like, your recovery is going to be the telltale thing there. The next thing is just try to get some reliable sources. Instead of fishing for advice from random internet strangers, like, there are reliable online sources from really great functional medicine doctors and hormone experts that offer free or low-cost guidance, and that's books or podcasts or even free webinars. I really love Erin Holt's podcast, The Functional Nutritionist. She is one of my favorites because she focuses on functional health the way I do. It's like looking at the whole picture and not just symptoms, and it's being able to hold multiple beliefs at the same time and not just like pitching your flag in one camp and saying, this is what I believe and I am staying here. It's like, no, I can accept new information and change my mind and adjust. She is awesome. So The Functional Nutritionist. I also really like Dr. Courtney Hunt. She teaches live on Instagram almost every single day, and she offers very powerful insights into how to use the body's natural healing mechanisms, and her approach to using food and nature and ketosis to heal. She has a very different delivery method from me, but we both are in alignment of our philosophy of what is available naturally to us to heal our body. I will say she does speak in code or parables, and that a lot of that is just because of censorship. It just takes some getting used to, but I promise if you stick with it, you'll start to understand her language. And she's brilliant. And again, she teaches live on Instagram every single day for free. You can support your body's detox pathways. And that doesn't have to be with a bunch of supplements, because even without testing, you can support your body's like natural ability to process toxins and to detox and to clear out excess hormones. Supporting your liver is key. Drinking water, staying hydrated, that's going to help flush. Make sure you're drinking clean sources of water. Making sure you are pooping every day. Support your liver with alkalinizing foods. You like those bitter herbs. Sweating, whether that's getting in the sun or the sauna. Rebounding gently. Walking, that pounding moves your lymph, moving your lymphatic fluid. You can even look for videos on YouTube how to gently do that with manual massage. My friend Dana explained this to me one time, and I'll never forget this visual, but your lymph is very delicate. So when you're doing a lymph massage, you're gently pushing. If you're pushing too hard, you're compressing your lymph and it opens very slowly. So if you're pushed too hard, you're just compressing the lymph and it takes a while for it to open again. So just when you're doing your lymph massage or manual lymph movement, it's very soft. So that's why dry brushing could be really good, because it doesn't push too hard. It's a way to control the pressure. So dry brushing, again, YouTube is full of great videos. You can search there. But ultimately, we can just focus on what we can control. It can be so empowering to just shift your focus away from what's outside of your hands. Like, I don't have a great doctor, or I can't get that lab testing. Okay, great. But what can you do? Let's focus on the things we can do. It may take some time, but doing the basics can lead to noticeable improvements without the need for all the labs or the expensive treatments or the crazy biohacking things. Lastly, just build your network. That's not a weird internet forum. I mean, yeah, there are some internet groups that are really great, especially if you have like a good supportive community who are also on a health journey and they can support you and offer great referrals by all means. But please just don't go on like your neighborhood page, like your local mom group of every random Karen and ask them. That's a way to get really interesting responses that will not help. I also have some really wonderful referral partners and practitioners that I refer out to in cases where I'm not always the best fit. Like I know that, like I'm not always the best fit for everyone. And so whether it's here in Oklahoma or pretty much in most of the states, even Australia and Canada, I have a great network of people that I've worked with, that I've trained with or studied with. So chances are, if you reach out and just tell me where you are and what you're looking for, I might know someone that I could refer you to. So I am just here to be a resource. I want to help any way that I can. But ultimately, just remember that without fancy tests or endless supplements, you do have the power to make meaningful changes in your health. And we can just start small, whether it's focusing on your sleep or adjusting your diet or managing your stress. Every step moves you closer to balance, and you are just stronger and more capable than you realize. And ladies, sometimes you just need a reminder of how awesome you are and how wonderful and perfect your body is. So with that, I will wrap us up for today. Again, come back next week. We're going to talk more about functional labs because I do get a lot of questions on that, and I think we need to talk about it. So I will close this out in prayer. I thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here. I know there are so many podcasts out there, so the fact that you spend your time listening to me today means a great deal. So I appreciate you, and I just hope that you have a fantastic day and a blessed week. So, Heavenly Father, we just come before you today with hearts full of gratitude and trust. And thank you for this incredible gift of our bodies and these vessels through which we get to experience life and love and purpose. And Lord, I just ask for your guidance for every woman listening today, especially those who are feeling overwhelmed and uncertain or lost in their journey. I just ask that you grant them wisdom to seek the right paths and the courage to take action when needed and the patience to trust in your perfect timing. I just pray that you help them discern between the noise of the world and the truth of what their bodies need. And I pray that you surround them with trustworthy people, whether it be doctors or practitioners or supportive friends, but trustworthy people who can guide them towards healing and wholeness and just support them in the areas that they need. Because Lord, we know that we weren't meant to live in isolation. You created us for community. We ask that your hand of protection just covers their health and their hearts and their minds, and let them know that they are not alone and that in you they have the ultimate source of wisdom and strength. And Lord, I just pray that you help each of us to lean into your grace as we seek to care for ourselves and our families and the purposes you have placed before us. And in Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Real Health Transformations. I hope this episode met you where you are and helped you cut through the noise, maybe get a little closer to the real practical solutions you've been looking for. Remember, everything shared here is for education and for inspiration, not medical advice. I am not your doctor. I am a podcast host. I am your encouraging digital friend. Always do what is right for you and consult a trusted healthcare provider before making any big changes. If you loved what you heard today, please subscribe, share with a friend, and let's keep having the conversations that matter without the fluff. Find me on Instagram. Let's keep this conversation going and keep questioning things. Keep finding what works for you. You've got this. I'll see you next time.